One common theme you can draw between the two is that you have founder CEOs who still own a substantial portion of the company's shares, 27% in both cases. Are other shareholders treated as fairly when you've got a founder CEO with such a substantial stake?
Well, that's what the board's trying to make sure of here. They put in the pill to make sure he couldn't accumulate, he or related parties.
Dov Charney here.
Yeah, couldn't accumulate more. But the second thing they did, which was significant, they changed the bylaws. So, for example, one of the changes they made, you can't remove a director unless it's for cause, unless all shareholders vote. And so they did some things that were smart. But this is the issue. Normally, companies are very careful, even if there's a big inside holder, to treat other shareholders fairly. And the board had to act over the weekend to make sure that happened.
And just full disclosure here, you're chairman of an investment firm that has a financial position in American Apparel. Do founder CEOs necessarily know better? Do they have a keener insight into the problems and the potential fixes that a company faces?
They should, but the issue is they have to play by the same rules as everybody else. And if they act inappropriately, if they don't act in the best interest of all shareholders, if they act, in this case, Dov Charney, if he acts inappropriately with employees and other things, which is really outrageous, the board's got to act and discipline him like any other CEO. And
just a correction here. Dov Charney has increased his holding in the retailer to 43%. It was 27%. What does that mean for American Apparel? How does it take the next step?
Well, the tricky part now is they put in a pill to make sure. I think he has 27, and two other related parties have another 10 and 12%. So he, by their bylaws, could actually remove directors. Could have moved the directors if he had 51%. They're trying to prevent against that, but this is close, and they may have waited too long to put the pill in. Yeah,
this looks like it's in a filing that was released late yesterday when a lot of people hadn't noticed. He acquired 27.4 million shares on June 27th. So it's now 74.5 million shares.
Yes. So the issue is they've got to stop him and then make sure they act in the interest of all shareholders, but they need time to do that, and they can't allow him to take control of the company.
Michelle Peluso, you run Gilt Group, a private company, so you don't have to deal with this. By the way, a lot of people would love to see an IPO. Are we going to see that?
Well, at some point, I'm sure.
At some point, you're sure. How do you protect minority views within the company and take the advice of directors?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, I think the vast majority of founder CEO founder chairman situations work really well. We have that at Gilt with Kevin Ryan, the founder, who did a phenomenal job and who has a huge amount of respect for shareholders and other board directors. So this is I think, unique situation and a really tragic situation, frankly, for employees, for customers. At Gilt, I mean, the board of directors is there to offer counsel, advice, to make you think differently, to challenge your assumptions. And that dynamic, when it's healthy, is phenomenally good for the company and for shareholders.
Is this a company that should have never gone public? I find that the egos of CEOs, essentially they're private companies that they go public to cash in, but they don't want to have the responsibility of a public company. Is there something to that?
Well, a lot of emerging companies need to go public so they can attract capital, and they may have needed it for their growth. But the moment he started acting in a way that was inappropriate, which might have been years ago, not months ago, board needed to act then. They probably waited too long and let this turn into a real mess.
Doesn't this also argue, and Michelle Wayne here, for the separation of CEO from chairman of the board, two totally separate roles, so there's a check and balance?
Well, I think that's often a really good structure, but it goes beyond that, right? There has to be, I mean, in this situation, it feels like, from the outside, of course, there were violation after violation. There was. I don't understand why the board didn't act sooner. I mean, what message are you sending to employees? We talked about tone at the top earlier. What message are you saying to employees as a board of directors if this is coming up over and over again and no action is being taken? I think that, to me, is the real question. That's the tragedy.
You know, it really does seem like it's the end of this era of an imperial CEO. I wonder, you now are in an era of active shareholders. It's a lot different now than it used to be.
Well, I think the era because I agree with Michelle, most founders are very effective, but I think the era of the imperial CEO probably ended more than 10 years ago. I think this is a aberration that we're seeing with Dov Charney right now.
All right.